Hello, my name is Peter Cordier. In this video we will be running through how to use the Revizto scheduler to automate your Revit model updates. Here we have the new Revizto 5 scheduler. So we're now looking at the scheduler interface. To use the scheduler, you create tasks. You can create a number of tasks as seen in this list, but today we are just going to be looking at creating tasks from Revit or publishing from Revit. So if I select task type publish from Revit, you'll get this message saying that you have to open Revit and basically set up the task from there when you're doing it for the first time. Here we have Revit, and we're looking at a sample project from Autodesk called Snowdon Towers. This is actually a federated Revit file, so we have a number of links here comprised of the different disciplines. It's good practice to have a dedicated 3D view which you will use just for publishing the data into Revizto from. So we have this view called Revizto Export. I'm now going to prepare this view ready for the Revizto scheduler. First of all, I'm going to check the visibility graphics, and I'm going to check which links I have turned on, and I want to push everything into Revizto, so I've got everything turned on. And the simple rule is, if it's visible in the 3D view that you're using, it will come through into Revizto. If it's not visible, it won't come through. So you could just check what's hidden to make sure that everything that you want to come through will come through and nothing is hidden. So let's now select the Revizto scheduler, and I'm going to create a new task. This task is being published from Revit 2024. Let's give this task a name and select a project. Because I'm doing this for the first time, it's asking me which coordinates I want to use, or positioning. Generally shed coordinates is the most commonly used positioning for Revit models. And then we're going to run through these settings here. So you do have the ability to select which work sets you want to load when the project is being published on the schedule. I'm publishing the 3D model. I'm selecting the view that I want to use, which is the Revizto Export view. Viewpoints, if you want to export all of the 3D views that you have in the Revit file, you can export those and they will come in as viewpoints in the Revizto project. I generally don't advise to do that because you get quite a lot of detritus and sort of work in progress views, which can be quite messy in Revizto. You have the option of exporting or publishing textures. If you do publish textures, the project can be a bit heavier, but for most projects of most sizes, having that doesn't really cause too many problems. It's only when you get to very, very large projects that you might want to opt to not export the textures. Grids, you will want to export your grids if it's a federated file. You do have the option of selecting which models grids you want to see in the Revizto project once it's in Revizto. Rooms, of course, if you're exporting architectural information, you want to export the rooms. If you're exporting just the structural model, for example, or building services, you probably won't want rooms to come through. Areas, if you're using Revit areas, you can bring that through as well. And all of these are location information, which is very useful when you're actually using the Revizto project. You have the option of exporting point clouds. If you have a point cloud inside this Revit project, you can push that through. And lines in this message clearly shows what that means. From 5.12, you were able to export 2D lines from your Revit projects. Sheets, let's have a look at sheets. So if I select sheets, you are able to export sheets as well as the actual models from Revit. You can sort the sheets by various metadata. So for example, checked by, that will change the way the list is sorted. Let's just go back to all. I'm just going to select a couple of these sheets for now, but essentially whatever you're selecting, that selection will get remembered the next time the model and sheets are exported. If you are using linked files, you can actually bring sheets in from linked files as well. I would avoid using this option for most cases, and sheet coordinates only. We don't need to go into that for today's video. Publishing method, you have various options as shown in this list. The preferred option is to use your inbuilt Revit PDF writer. If you want to know a bit more information about what this is dealing with, you can have a look at this information. And match sheets by, I would generally suggest using combination of parameters. I'm not going to go through all of these different algorithms today. If you want to know more, you can have a look at our help center, and that gives you some information about what that's all about. Let's look at the advanced options here. If we expand that, we have publish object parts as separate geometries. That's a fairly self-explanatory explanation. Publish object properties in compatibility format. That allows you to convert certain parameters to non-text values, essentially. Without going into too much detail, it's fairly well explained in this information here. Publish all nested links. That again is fairly self-explanatory. And extended suppression of model errors, that is turned on by default, and I would recommend having that turned on. That does try to suppress model errors, as is explained here, when the schedule is running and no one's actually at the machine. You can change the language that you're wanting to see. Obviously I will have this in English United Kingdom because that's where I am. Now let's look at the schedule. So you have the option of running the schedule or running the task automatically on the schedule or not. But we are going to be setting this up to run automatically. You've got a few options here. You can run it on particular dates, and you can add dates. You can publish it every week, say Monday, Tuesday, at specific times as well, so you can have as many sort of times as you like. So you could say 9 o'clock in the morning, and then perhaps 5 p.m. on Monday and Tuesday. You can also have it running every 2 weeks in the same format. You can also specify an end date. So if you want this to run for a particular period and then for that to be stopped, you can specify when you want that to be stopped. I'm going to go back and I'll just say every week, Monday at 9 and at 5. That's fine. Let's actually specify an end date of the end of February. And then we have some additional actions here. So to sync the Revizto project after task completion, which means when the task is run, any changes will get pushed up to the cloud and synchronized so that everybody else on the project will be able to see what's going on. And then we have email notifications, so you can decide when you get notified. So either when a task fails or partially fails, whether it's skipped or cancelled by another user, and when the task is successfully completed. So you might want to just try all of those to see what that looks like when you're running this for the first time. And you can email yourself and other people actually. So if you're running this maybe on a slave machine which is dedicated for that purpose, you can opt to email yourself if you're managing and looking after that project, but you can also email other people if you want them to be kept in the loop. There are command line actions here with our new scheduler. I'm not going to go into this in any detail today. This is fairly advanced sort of actions, which if you did want to know more about, there is an article on our help centre about how that works, and you can also get in touch with your nearest customer success manager if you want to find out more about that. So the last thing is just to save, and now you see that we have this task that I've just created in a list. I've got a previous one as well that I've created. So now that's done, I'm going to close Revit and open the Revizto 5 scheduler. And here we have the scheduler interface, and there is a lot of information here regarding your tasks. Obviously you have the task name, the project that it's connected to, the task type, and we have a few different ones here. We've got some Revit 2024 tasks, one for Clash Automation, a couple from Civil 3D, and also importing models, in this case some IFCs. But we are just looking at the Revit scheduled task today. We also have the information of when things are scheduled and how long things take. There are a number of other things you can do in here. So you can, if I select one of the tasks, you can run now, you can duplicate tasks, you can export tasks and import them, and also delete tasks from here. We also have an upcoming schedule, so you can see what's coming up in future, and also a history, and in here you can see if things have been successful or if they've failed. And you can also search for things in here. So if I search for maybe a project, so let's look at, say, codifying coordination. It's basically finding that text in the project, but it's also going to be searching for the name. So if I just type in structure, you can see that it's found the word structure in these two task names. So currently I have two tasks set up for that Snowdon Towers Revit project. This one I set up previously. I'm actually going to delete this one, and this one I'm going to rename to make a bit more sense of the task. So to do that, I'm just going to double click or click on it, and you can make changes here. So I will call this Monday task, and there's a lot of other changes you can actually make within the scheduler application. For example, some of these settings, publishing settings, you can change these things here. You're not able to change which sheets are being published. If I select this, you'll get an error message or a message saying that you will need to open the source model to make changes for the sheets. You can change the schedule, and it's worth mentioning here that within the Revizto scheduler application, the time is presented in the 24-hour clock. So it's 9 o'clock and 1700 hours, which is obviously 5 p.m. And in the scheduler for the Revit itself, the clock is presented as AM and PM. I think we will do something about that going forwards to make these two things the same, so probably go for the 24-hour clock in the Revit scheduler. You can also specify or change the end date if you like, and the notifications. That's all fine for now, so let's close that. So this has been set up for Monday, and it hasn't actually run yet, so I will run it now. So you can see that the task has started, and it will take a few moments for that to run. Revit will open, and that task will get processed. So that's now run, and you can see here the time it's taken. The last thing to show you is the Revizto scheduler and how that appears on the workspace. So if I open the workspace here for this project, you can see there the scheduler tab, and you can see that task in this list. From here, all you're able to do is delete tasks if you wanted to, and also view the information about this task, which is fairly self-explanatory. You will also see in here tasks that other users have scheduled, if that's the case. So I will just open up a different project to show you what that looks like. We have here some demo projects that we use in my region. So if I open up this one, codifying coordination, select the scheduler tab, you'll be able to see tasks that other users have set up. So we have one that I've set up, and that happens to be a clash task type, and we have some other names here for users that have set those things up, and they all happen to be clash automation task types in this case. That's all for this webinar. Thank you for watching. I hope you found it informative and useful.